Well, Peter, I know basically the Australian government hasn't really responded yet to the Productivity Commission report. In part, I suppose that's because some of the concerns overlap those of the Henry report,
right,
which has been the big topic of conversation, at least in the last week, even not the last few months. But to help us explore this relationship, we're speaking today on the program to Gina Anderson, who's CEO of Philanthropy Australia. And Gina, welcome to the studio, and great to have you on for the first edition of Social Business.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
And certainly so much talk in the last week coming out of the mining sector about the idea of killing the goose that lays the golden egg in regards to the resources tax, as I said, but in some ways there's a similar concern in the philanthropic sector. Just tell us the sort of concerns that you have.
Well, in actual fact, we've worked hard with the government over the last 18 months and to a certain extent have managed to get across the understanding that philanthropy is really about building a culture of giving. And in actual fact, from the Henry Tax Review, the results really for the philanthropic and charitable sector are four. One is dividend imputation is remaining intact, and that's great because it's great for Australian businesses and shareholders, but it means for charitable organisations and philanthropic organisations, they're giving money to the community, and it means their investment portfolios are focused on Australian companies and Australian businesses, so that's great. No bequest tax, so we think that's great. They have decided to maintain that you would still get a tax deduction if you gave a $2 donation. They haven't lifted that to $25. We think that's really important. And then the fourth thing is there are a whole lot of things that came out of the Productivity Commission that went to the Henry Tax Review, and the government has at this stage said we're going to leave those. At this stage we're not going to touch them. We will look at them, and when we do we will discuss with the sector, and I guess we're hoping that in time that some of those things around simplification of the sector will emanate.
Gina, as I read it, there are about 7, 8 recommendations in the Henry Review which specifically deal with issues of philanthropy and taxation of philanthropic institutions and so on. My reading is that essentially everything that Henry suggested, on the whole, the government has said no way. Is that right?
I think they've said to some things no way, which the couple of things I've outlined.
The things you said that were the negatives, they said no way to.
No way
yeah.
to. Some of the other things I think that they will in time look at, but they are not going to do it without discussing with the sector, because there are some big impacts, things like FBT, what you do with that, how you treat it, and if you are going to change FBT arrangements, and there needs to be significant discussion about transition, for example.
And the one thing that still seems to be in there is a Charities Commission. So what's your view on that one? Well,
I think Charities Commission is a vexed issue, because it comes back to that big thing called federalism and the states. And the biggest issue is, of course, that charity law and trust law tends to be state-based, and tax law tends to be federally, and so they don't often meet, and it's very complex, it's inconsistent, and indeed I don't know if it's a Charities Commission that's going to be able to sort that, but we need to do something about clearing this up and simplifying.
And so obviously big topics up for discussion. How open are the lines of communication between the philanthropic sector and the government at the moment, given such big proposals on the table, I suppose, with that review?
Oh, look, I think the lines are open, definitely, and been very good, and I think with the whole sector, indeed. I think the Productivity Commission received a huge number of responses, and submissions, as did the Henry Tax Review. I think the big issue is whether a government has the will to tackle this very complex area.
Yeah. Gina Anderson, great to get you in. Thank you very much. Gina's CEO of Philanthropy Australia. Thanks very much, Gina.